Good evening. I would like to run through some housekeeping arrangements. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel. The stream will be available to watch after the meeting has ended. By attending the meeting, you are giving your consent to be filmed. A notice with further information has been provided in the public gallery. The Council's constitution enables members to remain seated while speaking at this meeting. Under the Openness of Local Government Bodies regulations, people may film, record, tweet or blog this meeting, and this is outside the Council's control. I would also like to remind councillors and other people attending the meeting that the fire exits are to the rear and side of the room. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening. Could I also ask that everyone turns off their mobile phones or switches them to silent so that the meeting isn't disturbed? Councillors are unable to vote on an item if they leave the room during the consideration of that item. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I have apologies from the following honorary older women and honorary older men. Honorary Alderman Toomey, Honorary Alderman Bush, Honorary Alderman Stott. I have also had apologies from the following councillors: Councillor Jadeja, Councillor Lowe, and that's it. Are there any other apologies? No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mayor.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have apologies from Councillor Taylor, Nat Taylor, Councillor Claire Forrest, and Councillor Jane Lenny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It now gives me pleasure to ask Dr. Ram Chabra of the Hindu faith to address the meeting. Dr. Chabra.
One supreme being who manifests in countless forms to represent different aspects, functions, or paths to the divine, making God accessible and relatable to diverse people and needs, much like one light refracting into a rainbow. These deities, like Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the goddess, are seen as manifestation or expression of this single divine reality, allowing for personalized worship and understanding of the infinite rather than worshipping separate, unrelated gods. In the beginning of any auspicious occasion in Hinduism, we pray to Lord Ganesha. And the prayer is here, Vakrtund Mahakay Sarvakoti Samprabha Nirvignam Kurum Dev Sarvakareshu Sarveda. We are praying to Lord Ganesha, asking his blessings, and who will shower his blessing on everyone. O my Lord of Lords, Ganesh, kindly remove all obstacles forever and from all my activities and endeavors. So when we have prayed to Lord Ganesha, we expect that there won't be any obstacles in my path in the performing that activity. And then following that, we pray to the sun god, because without sun, there won't be any life on this earth. And the prayer is, Om Bhur Bhuva Tat Savitarvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yona Parchodayat. O God, thou art the giver of life, remover of pain and sorrow, the bestower of happiness, O Creator of the universe, may we receive the supreme sun, sin-destroying light. May thou guide our intellect in the right direction. And once we have worshipped the sun god, then we do worship the Lord Shiva, who controls our cycle of death and birth, and whom we pray for the salvation there. And O God, thou art the giver of life, remover of pain and sorrow, the bestower of happiness, and whom we worship the three-eyed Lord, who is fragrant and who nourishes and nurtures all being, as is the ripened cucumber, freed from its bondage. And may he liberate us from the death for the sake of immortality. And then after having said the prayer there, and now the prayer, final prayer, one of the other prayer is, Asmoma Jyotir Gamya Mrituroma Gamya Om Shanti Shanti Om we worship. Om, lead me from unreal to real, lead me from darkness to light, lead me from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. And finally, it's the Shanti part for the peace mantra. Om Dhau Shantirangriksha Shanti, Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapa, Shanti Sadhya Shanti, Vanaspatya Shanti Deva, Shanti Brahma, Shanti Sarva Shanti, Shanti Rev Shanti, Sama Shanti Rodi, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May peace radiated there in the whole sky, as well as in the vast ethereal space everywhere. May peace reign all over the earth, in water and in all herbs, trees and creepers. May peace flow over the whole universe. May peace be in the Supreme Being, Brahman, and may there always exist in all peace and peace alone. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti to us and all being. Thank you very much.
I will now move on to item 2, disclosures of pecuniary interests and other registrable and non-registrable interests. For information, disclosable pecuniary interests and registrable interests relate to entries that are included or should be included on a councillor's register of interests. Non-registrable interests relate to any other matters. As per the recent guidance from the monitoring officer, please can each councillor confirm any interests and their position on whether or not they are predetermined and have an open mind on item 6.1 relating to the adoption of the local plan. The Chief Executive will now call out each councillor's name alphabetically. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I call out councillors' names, I'll just relay to the meeting the disclosures made on the pink forms prior to the meeting. So I have a disclosure from Councillor Laurie Needham in respect of item 6.1 as a member of East Goscote Parish. I have a disclosure from Councillor Popley in relation to 6.1 as a member of Shepshed Town Council. I have a disclosure from Councillor Blackshaw in relation to 6.1 as a parish councillor of Mount Sorrel. Disclosure from Councillor Miriam Roberts on item 6.1 as a Shepshed Town Councillor, and also on items 6.3, 6.5, 10.1, 9.1 and 10.3 also as a Shepshed Town Councillor. Councillor Sandra Forrest, item 6.1, non-registrable interest, Barrow Parish Council. Councillor Mear, item 6.1, a disclosable pecuniary interest as a member of Leicestershire County Council. and councillors Bottomley and Gray, also as members of Leicestershire County Council, non-pecuniary interest in item 6.1. Says a member raise their hands now. Thank you. What I will do now is I will read out members' names alphabetically, and I will ask you to confirm by saying yes if you are attending with an open mind and that you are not predetermined. Please also at that point state if you have any other relevant interests not disclosed on prior to the meeting. Is that clear? In which case I'll proceed to call out councillors' names alphabetically. Thank you. Councillor Ashcroft. Thank you. Councillor Baines. Do we need the microphones on to record this? Can I just check? Thank you. Councillor Blackshaw. Councillor Boker. Councillor Bottomley. Councillor Bradshaw. Councillor Breaker. Councillor Brooks. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Charles. Okay, thank you. Councillor Corey Losley. Councillor Harper Davies. Councillor Dent. Councillor Ford. Councillor Ford. Not present seemingly. Okay. Councillor Sandy Forrest. Okay, sorry, we'll come back to you, Councillor Forrest. Okay, thank you. Councillor Fox. Councillor Fryer. Councillor Good. Councillor Anne Gray. Councillor Beverley Gray. Councillor Leon Hadjai Nicolau. Sorry, I misheard that. Yes, okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
Councillor Haynes.
Yes.
Councillor Infield.
Yes.
Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Councillor Knight. Councillor Lawrence.
Yes.
Councillor Matthews. Councillor Maynard. Councillor Mear.
Yes.
Councillor Monk. Councillor Needham. Councillor Northridge.
Yes, and I'm also a member of Shepshed Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes, also a member of Birstall Parish Council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Popley. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Rattray.
Yes.
Councillor Roberts.
Yes.
Councillor Seaton.
It's a yes from me, and I'm also Thurmaston Parish Council and Leicestershire County Council.
Thank you. Councillor Smidowitz. Yes. Councillor Snart. Thank you, Councillor Snart. Councillor Taylor. Thank you. Councillor Taylor-Durrant.
Yes.
Councillor Tillotson. Yes. Councillor Wesley. Councillor Woodward.
Yes.
Councillor Worrell.
Yes.
And I'll just return up to Councillor Forrest. Can you just confirm you're attending with an open mind, Councillor Forrest? Thank you. Can I just check, did I cover everyone's name? Everybody has confirmed, yeah? I did miss Councillor, sorry, who have I missed? Councillor Bell, sorry, apologies. I must have missed you on the list going through too fast. Could you just confirm, please?
Yeah, confirm yes.
I will see if somebody can help you, Councillor Forrest. Apologies that it's not working. No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. So, Mr Mayor, if I can hand back to you, that concludes the disclosures of interest.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 3rd of November 2025 be confirmed and signed as a correct record.
I second the minutes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to raise anything on the accuracy of the minutes? If so, please state the minute number. Since no issues have been raised, I take this to signify that the minutes are accepted as a correct record. Thank you. I will sign the minutes shortly and hand them over to the Deputy Monitoring Officer for archiving. The next item, item 4, announcements. The first are the Mayor's announcements, and I have the following announcements to make. Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration takes place on Tuesday the 27th of January, it's a week tomorrow, at 12:30 p.m. in Queen's Park by the bandstand. If the weather's bad, then it'll be moved to the United Reformed Church. It would be good to see some of you at this very important occasion. Shelthorpe turns 100 this year, so there are various celebrations taking place. Please look out for further information about this if you wish to participate. The Mayor's civic service will be taking place at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday the 15th of February at St Botolph's Church, Shepshed. If people would like to attend, we're asking for them to be in the seats in the church by 2:15. Everyone is also invited to join myself and everyone else for light refreshments in the church hall, which is opposite the church in Shepshed. So again, it would be great to see as many people as possible there at the civic service. Thank you. I call on the leader to make his announcements. Councillor Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to wish you and everyone present here a belated Happy New Year. This may be our first full council of the year, but many in this room, including our officers, have been busy since returning to the office after the New Year break. But I don't want to gloss recognition to the hard work of our officers during that period. I think this Christmas has been the strongest period for a long time in our towns and village centres, and I want to place on record many thanks to those in our events, town centre and markets team who have gone above and beyond during this period. They certainly will have a tough year to follow. Our 2025 was superb for our events team, but I am sure they will try and exceed expectations once again. I was privileged to represent Charnwood at the reception hosted by the Prime Minister at Number 10 earlier this month, with leaders from across the country to celebrate local government. I am told that this was done regularly before COVID, but was put to one side during that period. It is nice that they have restarted it again and getting access at first hand to speak to the Prime Minister and his senior ministers, to share our concerns and put forward our suggestions was an invaluable meeting. At Council Housing, it was reported to Housing Management Advisory Board on the 7th of January that our council housing stock condition survey had come back as 94% meeting decent home standards. I'm sure you'll agree that this is a great outcome for our tenants. Councillor Hamilton and lately now Councillor Tillotson should take some of the credit for the focus, drive and outcome for our tenants. Our tenants themselves, they won't mind me saying this, but it's mainly down to our Director of Housing, Peter Oliver, and his team, who have pulled out all the stops in getting our tenants' homes not only decent, but a high proportion of our tenants are satisfied with their homes. I also at this time want to shout out to Councillor Deborah Taylor as well, as the Shadow Housing spokesperson, for her tenacity to ensure that our housing stock remains at a high level. Peter doesn't attend full council normally, but if you can take back our thanks to him and his department, Rob, that will be very much appreciated. Of course, there is more to do, and we will keep working on our void properties and the properties that need further investment this year. Buckingham Palace Garden Party, we normally receive 2 tickets, which allow the Mayor and their consort to attend the garden party to represent Charnwood. This year we have received 4 tickets, and I thought, yes, myself and Jenny Boker could probably go. But what we've done, we've made the decision that the Mayor and their consort will go, but we also allowed the staff, senior staff members, one of them to go with their consort as well. So we can reward our staff as well as our members to attend the garden party. And hopefully they will enjoy it as much as I did back in 2010. So I'm waiting for my next opportunity. It might come, it might not, but who knows. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. That was very generous of you to do that as well. So thank you. I shall look forward to seeing whoever goes. I call on the Chief Executive to make his announcement. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no announcements to make.
Thank you. The next item is item 5, petitions. Are there any petitions to be presented? No. Indeed there aren't, are there? No. Okay. That's unusual. Item 6.1, adoption of the Charnwood Local Plan, which is on page 15 of the supplement. I call on Councillor Worrell to propose the item on this occasion. I have used my discretion to allow her to have 5 minutes to propose this important item. Councillor Worrell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the reasons set out on page 15 of the agenda, I move the recommendations set out on pages 15 and 16 of the agenda. I'm delighted and honoured to present this report on the Charnwood Local Plan to you this evening. The Borough of Charnwood is conveniently located between several cities and has excellent access to strategic road networks and rail connections. It contains ancient woodlands, places of geological significance, river valleys, rural villages and hamlets, service centres and towns. The local plan is one of the most important policy documents for the council, as it sets out the need for housing, employment, retail and regeneration within the different areas of Charnwood until 2037. It includes, for example, sustainable urban extensions and the enterprise zone. The plan has been in the making since January 2016. It's been a long journey, with 5 inspector hearings since 2022, engagement with the public from the start in 2016, then in 2018, 2019, 2021, and later on several occasions during the examination process. The plan was first published for consultation and submitted to the Secretary of State for examination in 2021. There have been many changes which have delayed the process along the way, such as the addition of the apportionment of Leicester City's unmet housing need, several changes to national policy, and the way in which infrastructure will be provided to support development with the introduction of the Community Infrastructure Levy. Having an adopted new local plan will replace the previous local plan of 2004 and the core strategy of 2015. It will enable planning decisions to be made in accordance with much needed updated policies. It means that we can regain control over new development and the infrastructure needed to support it, including transport and education. It also responds to our changing climate, our heritage and environment needs. It provides certainty about the location of jobs and homes and will enable us to develop and submit a housing supplementary planning document and other guidance documents which will add further clarification to policies within the plan. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my profound thanks to the Head of Planning and Growth, the Planning Policy team, officers from across the Council, councillors, stakeholders, partners and residents for their ongoing commitment, efforts and endurance over the years in maintaining focus and enthusiasm in shaping the local plan for Charnwood Borough Council. The government has made it very clear it expects local authorities to have up-to-date local plans in place, and there are councils in other parts of the UK that are subject to interventions by the Secretary of State, where they have not taken appropriate action to do so. Following the report from the inspector, which states that the plan is sound and can be adopted, I'm pleased to say that after this very thorough process, Charnwood is now in this position to be able to adopt it. And I call on members of this council to support the adoption of this local plan. Thank you.
Councillor Mayor. Councillor, if you wish to speak, please indicate on your console. Councillor Bradshaw.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. As you've heard from Councillor Worrell, this has been a long journey, begun in 2016, and there's a few of us in this room who have obviously were there in 2016. It has been a long process. I do come with an open mind tonight, and I'm sure all members will have some point of view to put forward. The one thing I'd like to sort of point out is if this plan isn't adopted, my thoughts are if this plan isn't adopted tonight, just think of all that journey, that waste of money that it's been, and where do we go from there? So just a thought about it being a waste of money and obviously having to go through another long process again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Accepting the plan is the best course of action that we've got to prevent against speculative development. Thank you.
Councillor Bellamy.
That the local plan is a key element of balancing often conflicting needs and desires. At its best, it would be a forward-looking document allowing residents, businesses, landowners and developers to have a common vision of the future land use and to make decisions accordingly. No plan can please everybody, but views will have been given air and housing allocations matched with the necessary new infrastructure. However, the document before us today is retrospective. Many of the allocations identified are already built or well progressed. Much has happened since this local plan was drafted, including Brexit, a global pandemic, the accelerating impacts of the climate emergency, and local government reorganisation is just around the corner. There is much about this plan which could now be improved. For example, Black Brook could be given space for water as a wetland corridor. The term Leicester urban area feels inappropriate for Charnwood settlements, given recent city expansion proposals on which residents get no say. Perhaps the areas of separation are wrongly placed. But the delay with this local plan left the door open for speculative development. In my ward, Salby, has seen large developments, but primary school expansion planned in Cossington, which is inaccessible during flooding. The area of separation has been lost and residents aren't happy. A decision on this document is finely balanced. Rejecting the local plan would allow improvements to be discussed, but leave the risk of further windfall sites. Acceptance provides some protection to some wards, but benefits such as the recently negotiated SIL. But as a council, we also need to look forward. Both Melton and North West Leicestershire are drawing up new local plans to be submitted at LGR. I don't want Charnwood residents to be disadvantaged by this outdated plan in the period before a unitary can create its own local plan in the early 2030s. Whatever the outcome today, in my view, we should look to fast-track creation of the next update in order to provide more certainty through the transition period.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I firstly welcome the inclusion in the proposed local plan of detailed policies that support more active planning for a sustainable future in terms of employment and housing development. It's good to see that the climate change section of the plan recognises the need to adapt to the impact of climate change beyond the 1.5 degree temperature increase envisaged in the Paris Agreement. The policies covering renewable and low carbon energy installations, sustainable construction, sustainable transport are significant steps forward from the previous plan. Although national building regulations are still a potential issue in terms of requiring robust low carbon solutions to be included at the construction stage, I am cautiously hopeful that careful wording of a rewritten design supplementary planning document will send the right messages to developers about the planning authority's expectations in that area. In terms of housing development across the borough, if this local plan is adopted, I believe it should not be seen as an endorsement of historic overdevelopment. For example, in my own ward, Sarby and Seagrave, Sarby has been forced by the lack of an up-to-date local plan to take a number of large speculative developments. These have taken place or will be taking place without any real improvement to the local road network, active travel routes and flood defences, and with an inadequate improvement to healthcare and education infrastructure and community youth provision. I believe it is therefore now vital that further harm to communities is prevented and the level of planning control over housing development and provision for infrastructure is restored in order to protect our communities from yet more speculative development. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wesley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I think in this place we wear three hats. The first hat is perhaps, as I'm sure we'll all agree, the biggest of all. It's the hat we wear for a local community, the very people that voted us in. Second hat is the one we wear for the borough, for Charnwood as a whole, the entirety of the people that voted us in. And the third hat, the smallest, which is further afield in our place in the country and the wider world. We cannot neglect those second and third hats. For those of us in here who will be thinking solely of the first hat for their own village and town, I'd remind them that we've spent much time within this room over the past few years discussing motions which are very much relevant to the wider world and the borough. So if you're voting purely in the interest of your own area, I'd ask you this: what do you expect in its place? What, after 10 years, could possibly be better than what is being presented to us? And what are the risks for not adopting this plan? I'll be voting for the local plan. It's a very good outcome for Corner Mount Sorrel Castle and for the wider borough.
Thank you. Councillor Deborah Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to begin by acknowledging the importance of having a local plan. It provides certainty, it guides development, and it helps us resist speculative applications. I fully understand that without an adopted plan, we risk unplanned growth and losing control over where development happens. However, as the elected representative for Anstey, I cannot support this local plan because of the devastating impact it will have on my residents and our community. The plan proposes significant housing growth in Anstey, including the allocation of 714 homes on land west of the village. This is an increase from the original 600 homes proposed. And currently there are submitted planning applications in this area for over 900. This is not a minor adjustment, it is a fundamental change that will alter the character of Anstey forever. Out of my duty for Anstey, I cannot vote for a plan that lowers risk and impact onto one village. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Popley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad I've gone now so I could hear the comments of other people. I did come with an open mind tonight, and I've been dwelling on this for the last few days, relentlessly, months in fact. It's something I've dreaded talking about. I can see the benefits of having a plan. I can, of course I can. It gives us certainty, it gives us a guideline, it gives us structure. But like my colleague and friend, Councillor Taylor's just said, I also remember the people who put me into my position. Now, I've heard what my ward friend, Councillor Roberts, has said, and I commend her for her speech. But I was asked on the very first day I was elected, please, Robin, don't let our town down. And if I vote for this, I think I have done the one thing I was asked not to do. So I cannot in good faith put my name to this plan. So that is the reason I will be voting against it tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Snart.
Mr. Mayor, thank you and good evening. Although it's good news to have an up-to-date local plan in place, I do question the time and cost this has taken to deliver this local plan and the consequences this has had for the well-being of the borough of Charnwood. Not all councillors here today were involved over the 10 years this plan has taken, noting it has been in the examination stage of the process for 4 years. During this time, the council has seen many development sites coming forward not in the local plan. This speculative development has, in my view, had a detrimental effect on the designated service centres and also settlements within the borough. This has manifested itself in poor necessary infrastructure, especially the strategic road network and other critical services that have come with the unplanned development. Before the vote is taken on this most important item, it would be good tonight to seek some assurances from the lead member. Now that the council has a sound local plan, we will see no more speculative development approved. This type of development, in my opinion, has affected the well-being of the residents, especially in service centres and other settlements across the borough, which have taken the biggest burden with the unplanned speculative development. That said, I do have concerns with the amount of speculative development that's taken place in Anstey. This has not only impacted on Anstey residents, but also residents living in my ward. This especially with the increase in traffic on the village roads. This is not on top of the large development numbers proposed in the local plan. It would be good to see some recognition of the development that has already taken place when deciding on the development coming forward with this local plan. Again, would the lead member give some assurances that no deviation will be made when delivering the necessary infrastructure to these planned developments? In conclusion, I believe it is important to understand the concerns of residents that have come forward during the time the council now had a local plan in place. The borough has changed with all this speculative development since the local plan was first outlined 10 years ago. It is now important the council make sure there is no deviation from the local plan, including the provision of the necessary infrastructure to the road network and the vital services and facilities that are needed within a strong, vibrant community.
Thank you, Councillor Snart. Councillor Haynes.
Proposed local plan that will be welcomed by the residents of Syson, who I represent, particularly the improved flood prevention measures at new schools, but in many other respects it will be viewed with horror. The extensive housing developments to the east of the town effectively remove any real separation from the city and make us part of the greater Leicester conurbation that some city politicians desire. The proposed new road will do nothing to relieve congestion through Syston or at the Asda Island, which is already close to gridlock at peak times. All traffic from the new housing will have to pass through narrow and suitable roads in the centre of Syston, Barkby or Quenneberry. In some cases, past schools, increasing the risk of accidents to children and parents dropping them off. Doctors' surgeries are already operating at capacity with no space for expansion. I accept that having a bad local plan is better than having no local plan, but for Syston, this is a bad local plan.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Gray.
The trouble with the local plan is that it's a plan mainly for building. When I first saw the original iteration of the plan back in 2019, when it went out for feedback, I was quite worried about the amount of space being taken up. I used to sometimes be awake at night, but I could hear owls hooting. These days, I can't hear them hooting, and I do have concerns for wildlife because I don't hear them hooting anymore, because where they used to be, there are now houses. Houses and other amenities, places of work, etc., are built on fields, which we like, and are home to our wildlife. I therefore did express my concerns, but I came here with an open mind and have had an open mind for the last few years. We do need to build to meet the demands of our population, but we need to do this with a local plan to stop speculative development. Councillor Snart asked a very relevant question in our briefing about the plan. What about villages in the plan where speculative development has already taken place? Will the dwellings in the plan still be built in addition to what's already been built? This is quite possible and shows how badly we need this plan to be adopted this evening. And there are many other reasons why we need this plan. Things like cost, government intervention, which we don't want. But I would like to end on a more reassuring note because, like many of you, I've been looking at the plan, found an example near me in HA17. It does hold out hope for wildlife. It says this site is a strategically important link in the wildlife network between the important natural resources of Charnwood Forest and Soar Valley. For this reason, it's particularly important that biodiversity net gain is achieved on-site in this location rather than through off-site contributions in accordance with policy EV6. We really do need to ensure that such conditions are built into the permissions we give for development. And we do all need to think tonight about the consequences if this plan is rejected. I shall be voting for it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Infield.
Thank you, Mr. Past criticisms of the draft plan. In my view, the housing site allocation plans have a detrimental and disproportionate impact on the Charnwood villages. And also, these allocations erode important areas of separation between those villages. The result is damage to many Charnwood village communities. I am, however, very aware that a vote against the plan would leave Charnwood open to continued speculative development, of which we have already seen far too much, as I'm sure we all agree. I am, however, unhappy at being put in an invidious position with regard to this vote. I blame the previous administration for this, having voted through an early draft plan that, as far as I can see, included all of the site allocations of the present plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tillotson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the first decisions the new administration made back in 2023, wasn't it, was to continue to support the local plan that had been developed by the previous administration. And we did that because we knew it was best for local people. Is it a perfect plan? No, it is not. But is it better than no plan at all? Absolutely it is, because Make no mistake, without a local plan, the speculative development that many of you have spoken about will continue. So I urge everyone to support the local plan. Thank you.
Councillor Fryer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I've listened with interest to everybody, and it has been most encouraging that it's across the board and across the whole council, the concerns and the thoughts on the local plan. You all know that I've been here a long time, and I was part of drawing up and helping in 2016, and since 2003, when I was first elected, my own village has received, quite often because we had no local plan, 1,000 houses. We cannot improve the roads because we are surrounded by canal and river, but I was for a short time, a couple of years, lead member for planning, and I've sat on plans committees. And it has been very difficult for all of us who've been involved in planning and councillors to have to sometimes approve applications because we haven't had a local plan. We should all be aware that if we don't have a local plan, and it isn't perfect, no local plan will ever be perfect because it will never suit everybody, we could end up in special measures and then forget it. You will have no say and it will be built where we don't want to. I appreciate that there has been a reduction in areas of separation. My own village, I think we've got a couple of 100 yards between us and Salby. Quorn is across the river. We can't build on the river and the floodplain, so we are losing it. But the main thing is, it's quality. It's the quality that we now can demand that's built. I always remember, and a lot of you in this room may not remember him, was Mike Preston, who was leader of this council for a few years until he sadly died. And he always said, there is no bad planning, there's just bad design. And it's up to us now with the local plan, if it goes through tonight, which I hope it will, that we can then put our own stamp on it and work forward. Our residents won't forgive us if it's refused, and the speculators, they're drawing in, they'll be listening to this tonight. I'm sure they are. And they will either be having to work with us or they'll be rubbing their hands with glue. So I do encourage you all to think long and hard and think to go ahead with our local plan, that the officers, the other councillors that are no longer in this chamber have worked so hard on. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bowker.
What has been said already that I wanted to say, so I've got loads of scribbling out now on my speech. But I think Jenny Tillotson and Hilary made some very important points. And after 10 years, the inspector's final report and sign-off was only received last week. That is 10 years. The cost in taxpayers' money of arriving at this point is excessive and has allowed too much speculative development in unsustainable areas in the borough, where appeals have been won because we did not have a 5-year supply of housing and thus could not demonstrate where the supply would come from. Added to that, many houses in the plan, because it starts in 2021, have already been built or are in the process of being built. And you have to remember that the ones, for instance, in the Wolds were never in the plan, as many other wards, and they purely got through at appeal. One site in Burton we have fought for 13 years, and eventually the appeal inspector put it through, and I remember Sandy Forrest being thoroughly against it at the planning meeting, and it's been built on historic parkland of Presswold Hall. So we all had an opportunity to feed into the draft local plan process, either through consultation or actually turning up to the inspector's public examination, which went over 4 years. We can now meet those remaining lead housing numbers by an evidence-based local plan for the whole borough. It protects rural areas, open spaces, and, as Councillor Gray emphasised, biodiversity. I won't go on. I urge all councillors to support this local plan. As Councillor Fryer pointed out, we will pay a heavy price because the government will just put Charnwood into special measures. They will force the local plan on us, and they will give us extra housing numbers as the penalty. So it's more pain for everybody, and we will be out of control again. It will be hugely embarrassing to thwart this local plan by voting it down this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with a heavy heart, really, that I'm going to vote against the local plan. I can't, in all conscience, vote for a plan that proposes the level of development in our village, Anstey, that's proposed. The plan proposes, as Councillor Taylor's already mentioned, 900 new dwellings in a village of around 4,500, representing a sort of an increase of around a quarter in total population size. Now, our infrastructure is simply not likely to be able to cope with the extra traffic on the roads, nor the extra demand on schools, primary and secondary, and our NHS services. In fact, I'm entirely unsure why places like Anstey and Syston have received so much development, to be quite honest. And I think there are other areas in the borough. I think the Broadnock development is excellent, and I think other places that could have taken more. I think there's been recommendation for overdevelopment in certain areas. And so it is, I say it's with a heavy heart, I mean it, because I understand that speculative development, if we all voted this way, would be even more problematic, and I'm appreciative of the special measures argument. But I don't think with all conscience I can vote for the local plan when I've received, and my fellow ward councillors received, so many emails on what residents believe is overdevelopment. And so to represent them properly and register their firm disagreement with this and the answer implications of the local plan, I'm going to vote against. But I recognise I'll be well, not a lone voice, but one of very few. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Councillor Needham.
The first thing I'd like to address is how challenging a vote this is for many of us. We know the vote tonight will affect real people and places, and I can tell from the way people have spoke tonight that none of us are taking this lightly. Greens have long challenged many of the housing allocations in this plan. It's our view that it placed far too much development in villages and towns that couldn't cope and who might lose their rural identity. Sadly, a lot of that has come to pass. In our wards, there are thousands of houses either being built with permissions approved or with live applications on them, and plenty of the speculative development that people have spoke tonight as well. The scale of that has resulted from earlier decisions has understandably caused anger among a lot of our residents. The situation we've got tonight isn't the same as a lot of decisions we take in this council. We can't simply vote for the parts of the plan that we welcome and amend the parts that we don't. The time for that, as Councillor Boker touched on, passed many, many years ago. We have to deal with the plan as it is and not how some of us might like it to be. And we can't change the past decisions. We've got what's in front of us and we have to make our best judgment based on that. There are parts of this plan that we do desperately need, like the environmental and flood protections, mechanisms whereby we can make sure roads and services keep pace. And we desperately do, as others have said, need more local control over planning decisions and not to be left at the mercy of government and appeals forcing even more speculative housing on us in yet more places where it's not welcome. We have a responsibility to protect our residents from future harm. Not having a local plan, as so many people have said tonight, it opens the door to even more housing and even more of that uncontrolled development, which is exactly the kind of harm that we've seen in some of the rural villages that we represent. So if this plan were not adopted tonight, I would find that a very difficult thing to justify to them, however imperfect we find it to be. So in summary, this is not a simple or a comfortable decision, but we do have to deal with the position we find ourselves in now. And I'd also add that given the very long and very difficult history of this plan and the scale of impact it's had on our area and the consequences of not having one, I think it's entirely legitimate for councillors to reach different conclusions tonight in good faith based on what they believe to be what best serves their communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No one in this chamber underestimates the concern felt by our villagers. Development will bring change, and for many communities that change will be difficult. Those concerns are real and they deserve continued engagement and mitigation as the sites come forward. However, the choice before us today is not between development and no development. It's between planned, managed growth and unplanned speculative development. Without an adopted local plan, we weaken our ability to say where homes should go, what infrastructure must accompany them, and how we protect the character of our borough. We leave decisions to appeal, often losing control over design, transport, provisions, school places, health services, and green infrastructure. By adopting this plan, we retain control. We set clear expectations of developers. We can insist on infrastructure, on sustainability, and on contributions that benefit both new and existing communities. Importantly, we provide certainty for residents, for businesses, and for our villages. This plan is not perfect, and now I've got to stroll down to the bottom and it's not doing that. I want a touch screen, please. This plan is not perfect, and no plan ever will be, and this certainly isn't. But it is a responsible framework that allows us to shape growth rather than react to it. For those reasons, and in the long-term interest of Charnwood as a whole, I support the adopted local plan. And if I've got some time left, I'd like to say Thurmaston's experience in this. The big group that put forward the Thorpebury development has gone bust, owing millions. So at the moment, half of Thurmaston has been developed, the other half hasn't, and they've not put forward to who the developers would be. So I am concerned at the moment because it's been passed, but it could be, if that group or that vision doesn't come to fruition, it could be that the northern bypass, the southern bypass, the meandering road through it could all be subjective and open to speculative developers. And that frightens me very much. So I support this plan.
Thank you. Councillor Fox.
All right.
Ethan has just said, but I did write it before she said it. So essentially I was going to say, I don't think you're ever going to have a local plan that's going to satisfy everyone. I think everyone has a story from their village. We've all lost fields, Quorn and Mount Sorrel Castle certainly have. And I don't think anyone disagrees that speculative development has been detrimental, that we need a plan, and we need a plan sooner rather than later. I actually agree with the Green Councillor at the frustration of being placed in an unenviable position where the need for the local plan is so great that there might be aspects in it in a perfect plan you would try and consult or mitigate. I don't, however, agree with gratuitous blame games that serve no purpose at this point except to present better optics to residents. The delay has been for a myriad of reasons and all parties have had a role to play and an opportunity to do better. I agree with Councillor Seaton. What I feel we are voting for today is certainty. And there is a positive here. We do actually finally have a plan that could go through today. I think there's only one worse outcome for some of the residents I talk with regularly about this, which is to say, oh yeah, there's still nothing on the local plan. It's still just drifting on and I've got no certainty, no idea when it's coming through. I think we can, at this point, if it goes through, look forward rather than look back. And I'll be voting for to protect the remaining fields in Quorn and Mount Sorrel Castle.
Thank you. There's 3 more speakers to come, but the queue is now closed after that. So the first up is Councillor Knight.
Mr. Mayor, I'll keep my comments brief. Starting this process in January 2016, my daughter was a tiny baby then, and she goes to secondary school next year. So this has just gone on far too long, and I think if we don't vote for this tonight, she'll probably be gone to university by the time we have an approved plan. I just can't see how that's acceptable. So I think, while imperfect, I have to vote for it because we just need to stop this now and carry on. That was it. I promised it'd be brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Hiya, thanks. I'll keep this quite brief because a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said by just about everyone, and I think everyone's probably heard enough by now. But it's kind of like the age-old thing, isn't it? We all want to see houses built, but just not in our town or village. But did anybody really think of the house that they bought, that they live in now, and how many people may have objected to that, but they still bought it anyway? If you're going to object to building projects and infrastructure and stuff like that, it has to be across the board, not just where you live, or you either approve everything. But what I would say to people who are thinking of, or have already made their mind up to reject this, is that there is the real possibility that this council will be put into special measures. And what does that mean exactly? Well, it means that we're redundant. We've got no say. And everybody who has or decided to or thinking to object against this, what you're objecting to could be 10 times worse for you and you will not have a say. You cannot stop it. And what will your constituents think of you then? That you've made it so much worse. So that's not something I'm prepared to take a risk on whatsoever at all. So just, if you're thinking about it or you've already made your mind up, just think what special measures actually mean for your constituents and for you with the decisions that you have been put in to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corrie-Loseley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to say I absolutely will be voting in favour of the local plan for reasons that councillors of all stripes have made very clear. It's imperative that we get it. I just thought I should also add, obviously lots of concern from the villages, been overdeveloped, certainly a serious problem. I have every sympathy for members who are out in the villages, but from an urban perspective as well, thinking of my own ward and my own residents, it's essential that we get the local plan to help get some control on the change of the character that we've seen in, I'm certainly thinking of Loughborough. And residents of ours are very, very concerned about the expansion of PBSAs, purpose-built student accommodation blocks, and also HMOs, and having a local plan as a framework to work off for some extra planning rules is essential and really, really important. So for that reason and all the others that everybody else has stated tonight, I'll definitely be voting in favour of the plan.
Thank you. Councillor Mayor, you reserved your right to
Spears, thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and
Thank you.
I know this is an incredibly difficult decision for members, and I'd like to thank all members for their comments and being honest. And it is totally one where actually it's not suitable for everybody, but it's a plan that we've worked through for the last 10 years, and it's now ready for adoption. And this is the task as borough councillors we have to put in place something that will protect our countryside, protect our urban centres and also our villages as well. When we came into power, we also, 2 years ago, we thought we would probably get it over by a year, maybe 18 months, but a couple of years later, we're still there, but we're at the final stages, I believe. And I think today, yes, some members do have concern, and I thank you for sharing those, but I think we're there or thereabouts to adopt it. Members will be aware, and I like that phrase, and I think Councillor Fox used it definitely, but other councillors use it, of looking forward, and I think that's what we have to do now, look forward. Once this plan is adopted, how we'd like to shape Charnwood going forward. And I do believe having this plan in place will strengthen our plans committee to refuse speculative development, because obviously we know as if you've gone to the planning training that you can't, even if it's outside of the plan, they are perfectly entitled to put in a planning application, but it will strengthen our plans committee to say no to it, and also strengthen our hands if it should ever go to appeal. But I also want to see, looking forward, we've got the community infrastructure levy coming forward, and should it be adopted and accepted by this chamber here, we'll be raising tens of millions of pounds for infrastructure for our parishes and our towns centres as well. And those are our parish councillors, and I think a lot of us will be post 2028. It will be, you will have money there to spend in your communities. I would like to urge all members, if they can, to adopt the plan, but I understand not all members can, and I respect that decision. I also want to thank our officers for all the hard work that they've done at getting this plan into place and ready for us to adopt it. It hasn't been an easy ride. It never is. I remember when I came in 2007, that plan didn't get adopted till 13 or 14 or maybe 15. So it does take a long time, and it does take a lot of money. I think somebody's mentioned that money as well, and money is scarce. We'll have our budget meeting next month, and we will no doubt be debating where we want to spend our money on, and I'd rather we spend it on things that we're debating at that meeting rather than saying actually we need some money for another plan. My final point is that we're actually leading in Leicestershire on this one. We'll be the first Leicestershire authority, I believe, that will have an adopted local plan. The others are quite far behind, and if you listen to the Secretary of State, they're all about building and creating homes for people to live in, and affordable homes as well. However, if we have a local plan, it's in place, and we can look at the areas that we want to develop, so the speculative development hopefully will move to one side. Final point is, I'm sure our residents will be listening. We need homes, regardless of where they are in the borough. This plan puts it in place that where we want them as an authority, but we do need homes for the people that are desperately requiring them. Social housing as well as housing to buy. And I think this plan will go some way to deliver the shortage in homes that we have in the borough. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I just urge everybody to adopt the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Worrell to sum up. Councillor Worrell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've listened to the discussion with great interest, and I recognise all the pros and cons that have been expressed by the different members on all sides of this room. And I will take particular note of the concerns that Councillor Seaton expressed. I have already mentioned in response to one of the statements that was made that this local plan does take into account new policies and requirements. We've been through a lot of change with national policies recently, and this new local plan has to go hand in hand with the new national policies. And adopting this local plan will prevent speculative development. I'm also slightly puzzled by some of the comments that have been made from the other side of this room, because the housing allocations within this local plan was agreed by the previous administration. And as you will all be aware, I'm ward councillor for Woodthorpe Ward, which has 2 large developments planned, one of which is considered as possibly the most ecologically sensitive in the borough. At the time, when all these housing allocations were discussed and were being put into the plan, there were petitions and media campaigns about these 2 developments, but no changes were made to these allocations. So I can empathise with some of the views and concerns expressed during the discussion, particularly in relation to Anstey and some of the other areas in south of Charnwood. And as many members have already stated, I accept that this local plan is not perfect, and I don't believe that any local plan probably ever would be. But there is a larger picture here, and it is about what is best for Charnwood. Homes are needed, employment is required, and houses and facilities have to be built to meet those needs. What we have before us here today is a new local plan which has been declared sound by the inspector. It's a local plan far more comprehensive than the previous plan and the core strategy. It provides fully up-to-date, detailed and clear policies within it. It's been through rigorous examinations and many consultations. It provides us, for example, with long-awaited new policies on infrastructure, including transport, housing, biodiversity and climate change, flood risk and sustainable construction. All the policies within this new local plan will provide detail and clarity for our members to express informed decisions and make informed opinions. They will also provide welcome clarity for our officers. We've already heard of some of the consequences for the Borough Council if we do not adopt this plan, and specifically in relation to the tilted balance, it would put us into a permanent tilted balance for some time to come. There is also the risk of intervention from the MHCLG if we don't adopt it, and that means that we would actually lose control. And the thought of having to start again would cost us hundreds of thousands of pounds, and the council does not have the funding for that. The conclusion I draw from considering the pros and cons is that I am in absolutely no doubt that there will be significant benefits for Charnwood Borough Council from adopting this plan. It will provide much needed stability and focus by replacing 2 pages of policies listed in the inspector's report for a start. It will provide detail and clarity during the planning process, and looking ahead, it will also be reviewed annually through the process set out in the monitoring framework, and it will provide us with a sound plan for the Charnwood area when we transfer into a new unitary authority in a couple of years' time. So without further ado, I commend this local plan for adoption by this council for the reasons I've previously given. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Worrell. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Please use your...
Councillor Boker's indicated. Need a seconder if somebody wishes to do that.
Councillor Wesley has seconded that, yes. Okay, so are we doing this by a show of hands?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will call out the councillors' names.
Yes.
And we will...
Yeah.
And they will need to vote for, against or abstain. So I'll start to call out the names, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Ashcroft. Councillor Baines. Councillor Blackshaw. Councillor Boker. Councillor Bottomley. Councillor Bradshaw. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor
Breaker, Councillor Brooks, Councillor Cancel, Councillor Charles, Councillor Rees Corey Lowesley, Councillor Harper Davies, Councillor Dent, Councillor Forrest, sorry, Councillor Claire Forrest is absent, Councillor Sandy Forrest, Councillor Fox, Councillor Fryer, Councillor Good, Councillor Anne Gray, Councillor Beverley Gray, Councillor Hajai Nicolau, Councillor Hamilton,
4.
Councillor Haynes, Councillor Infield, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jadija is absent, Councillor Knight, Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Lenny is absent, I believe, is that correct? Councillor Lowe is also absent, Councillor Matthews, Councillor Maynard, Councillor Mear, Councillor Monk, Councillor Needham, Councillor Northridge,
4.
Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Pockley, Councillor Rattray, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Seaton, Councillor Smidowitz, Councillor Snart, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Nat Taylor, I think, his apologies, Councillor Taylor Durrant, Councillor Tillotson, Councillor Westley, Councillor Woodward, Councillor Worrell. Thank you. Can I just check that I captured all members in the room? Okay, we'll just take a second to check the numbers. Thank you. Okay, well, announce this. Yes, there is. Vote is carried. We'll just announce the score. So, there you go, Mr. Mayor. The vote is carried.
The vote is carried by 37 votes to 4 against and 6 abstentions. So the motion is carried. Thank you. There will now be a 5-minute break. Thank you. Meeting is now resuming. Item 6.2, Treasury Management Strategy and Annual Investment Strategy, Mid-Year Review. I call on Councillor Ashcroft to propose the item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm pleased to introduce an item which has only had 6 months in the making. So this item concerns the mid-term review of our Treasury Management Strategy. It outlines the rules and regulations in which we operate, as well as updating the broader economic climate and forecasts, as well as what our current investment strategy is, our current portfolio, and also how it's performing. It's a rather detailed and technical document, but in a very broad summary, it can be noted that there have been no significant changes to the strategy, which was approved by Council in February of 2025. Also, our investment portfolio is performing well, with a return of 4.6% against the benchmark of 4.3%. Mr. Mayor, for the reason on page 56 of the agenda, I move that Council notes the mid-year review of the Treasury Management Strategy Statement, prudential borrowing and Treasury indicators, plus the annual investment strategy, as set out in Part B of the report, attached as an annex.
Thank you.
I second this, Mr. Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. Councillor Gray, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd urge all members to support this item, and I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Ashcroft to sum up.
Okay, I've also got nothing further to add, and also encourage all members to vote for this motion.
Thank you. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Please use your consoles.
Should I press you?
Yeah.
There we go.
Sorry.
That's not a bad thing. No.
You got it.
Yeah, I thought I had. Shall I see if it'll take it again? No, I had voted, yeah.
There's still 1 or 2 short. You just check. Can you just check everybody's pressed their console, please? Is your console not working?
Ah, right, okay. Is anyone else that the console's not offering the facility to vote on?
Just ask them to vote.
Yeah. Anyone that hasn't been able to vote on the console, could I ask you to show a yes with a show of hands now? That's 1, 2. Just to thank you. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.3, the Town Deal Programme Support. This item is exempt and will be considered under item 16 of the agenda. So that will be later. Item 6.4, Pay Policy Statement 2026 to 2027, as on page 82 of the agenda. I call on Councillor Mear to propose the item.
Mr. Mayor, to ensure that the Council meets its obligations under Section 38 of the Localism Act 2011 and to review and update the PGPS discretionary policies as required by the Leicestershire LGPS pension section, I move that the Pay Policy Statement 2026-2027 as set out in Appendix A of the attached report, considered by the Personnel Committee, be approved and adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Snart.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second this, Mr Mayor. Just for interest and information, there were no concerns raised with the changes to the policy statement at the Joint Management and Trade Union meeting. Therefore, I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any councillors wish to speak on this? Please use your consoles. You do? No. Councillor Mayor, would you like to sum up?
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Now putting the motion to the vote. Please use your consoles to vote. Or put your hand up at that end of the room. Thank you. That's...
The vote for the motion, I believe, yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.5, independent remuneration panel support, members' allowances as page 113. I call on Councillor Blackshaw to propose the item.
Mr Mayor, I move that the RIP recommendations set out in Appendix A be adopted with the caveat that we will continue reviewing the Plans Committee remuneration with a view to recommendation coming to Council's April meeting. I also move the officer recommendations for reasons 1 to 3 set out in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Angray.
I second this, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tillotson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm very pleased that we're not making the decision based on what the independent review panel suggested in terms of Plans Committee membership. Having been a Plans Committee member for a number of years, I know just how much work is involved in being a member of Plans Committee, and I look forward to the decision that we make at our future meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Gray was in.
Councillor Gray, you reserve your right to speak, I believe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Blackshaw, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note Councillor Tillotson's comments with interest. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Please vote using your console or show of hands for yes if you're showing it the hands now. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's unanimous, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7, call-in references. There are no call-in references from scrutiny. Item 8, no requests for position statements have been received. Item 9, motions on notice. There is one motion on notice on the agenda submitted in accordance with Full Council Procedure Rule 9.1.2. The motion was submitted by the Conservative Group and is about guidance on councillors' administration of community forums. Item 9.1, guidance on councillors' administration of community forums, as shown on page 133 of the agenda. Councillor Monk, would you like to introduce the motion on notice regarding guidance on councillors' administration of community forums? You have 3 minutes now and 5 minutes at the end to sum up. Councillor Monk.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In moving this motion, I want to begin by recognising the positive role that social media and online community groups now play in local democracy. Many councillors across all parties use these platforms to keep residents informed, answer questions and encourage local participation. That's something we should welcome. However, as these groups grow in reach and influence, questions arise about how they are moderated, particularly when they are administered by elected representatives. When this happens, the way that those spaces are moderated matters. The lines between personal and public capacity can easily blur, and without clear guidance, it can be difficult for councillors to know what standards should apply. This motion is not about regulating social media, restricting political debate, or preventing councillors from engaging online. It's about clarity, fairness and public confidence where councillors choose to administer or moderate online spaces that, in practice, are actually community forums. The Council's Code of Conduct and its social media guidance provides general advice on online behaviour, but they do not adequately address the specific, increasingly common situation. This motion recognises a simple but important point. Moderation decisions influence who gets heard. They affect whether residents feel able to participate, whether debate is balanced and whether opposing or minority views are treated fairly. This motion has been brought forward because a significant number of local residents have contacted me to express concerns about their experiences in online community forums administered by councillors. They've told me that they feel their views have been suppressed or excluded merely because they disagree with the views of those moderating that space. Whether or not councillors agree with those perceptions, the fact that residents hold them at all should really concern us. When people feel that political disagreement leads to exclusion from community discussion, trust is eroded, not just in an online forum, but in local democracy more broadly. This motion exists because there is currently no clear guidance for councillors who choose to administer or moderate online community forums. In short, what this motion says is where councillors voluntarily choose to control or moderate online spaces that functions as community forums, there should be clear expectations about openness, fairness and transparency. Some may argue that these are private platforms and therefore beyond our concern. But this motion is not about ownership of any online platform. It is about the role councillors play when they exercise control over forums that residents reasonably understand to be community spaces for local discussion. This motion asks the monitoring officer to take a measured and proportionate approach. This approach protects residents by giving them confidence that participation will be fair. It protects councillors by providing clarity about expectation, and it protects the council by reducing the risk of complaint, dispute and reputational harm. Above all, it supports the core democratic principle that residents should be able to take part in discussions about their community without fear that disagreement will lead to exclusion. I would therefore urge all councillors to support this motion. Mr Mayor, I move the motion on notice about guidance on councillors' administration of community forums on page 133.
Thank you, Councillor Monk. Councillor Baker.
I second this, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console, and we have Councillor Baines first.
Mr Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's worth pointing out that a social media post by a sitting councillor can be regarded as an election address if it's demonstrably published with the intention to promote their candidacy or their party. There's a clear distinction between councillor business and an election address. And if the latter, it should have a digital imprint, as I'm sure the leader of the council knows as one of the administrators of such fora, and others who administer such fora, and can be included and should be included in election spending returns. A post can be viewed as an election address if it fulfills one of the following 4 criteria: promotes a candidacy, advocates for a party, criticises opponents, and highlights personal achievements. It might be worth reading the Elections Act 2022, which outlines much of this in detail. So those of you in these positions don't fall foul of your social media posts being considered as notional spending. I would therefore like to urge the whole council to unanimously support this thoughtful, neutral motion by Councillor Monk to ensure fair play in addressing residents on all sides of our community forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. Councillor Roberts.
Is what our society lacks at every level. Social media can lock us into an echo chamber of our own choosing, in my case, Pokemon content and Labour content. Platforms have their own guidance for how they're used, whether it be Facebook, X, YouTube, Instagram, and the new kids on the block, Threads and Blue Sky. Users who create profiles, pages and groups have options. They can like, comment and share content, but they can also block, delete and mute people who've either been annoying or who are trolls or who are repeatedly commenting, creating rage bait, which is very difficult to manage. Social media does have guidelines within their operating platforms. It also forces people into echo chambers that show extreme views on many matters. We have to make sure that we're following the Equality Act and the Freedom of Expression Act when using these things.
Thank you. Councillor Westley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Last year, the Labour government gave Leicestershire County Council 28 million as part of a 1.6 billion pot of funding for road maintenance, an increase of nearly 50% on the previous year. As according to this map, why is reform-led county council failing to deliver? Not my words, of course, these are the words of the leader of this very council. Quite the position of privilege and responsibility in our area, which I'm sure he is proud about on a community forum. Is this appropriate for our leader, a man who holds such an important role in the community, to use a public forum, typically the preserve of local news, hairdressers who want to find new clients, and those very generous parents who want to give away free, unused kids' toys for his own political ambitions, biases and peacocking, particularly when he has complete control over the narrative? Apparently, looking at the spotted Loughborough Facebook group, you need 5,000 points to be an all-time contributor, all-star contributor. The leader has 122,000 points. I know more about his life than I do my own. If I was to advise a leader, which I wouldn't dream of doing, I would suggest that rather than spend all his time on Facebook, he should perhaps have the humility and consider a period of introspection. I wonder why, only a year after a significant showing of support for his party at the general election, why his party only received 11% of the vote share and 4% of the seats at the county council to which he refers. This motion, which I support in the general sense, needn't tar all with the same brush, but should be directed at a select few members within this room, perhaps starting with the general principle that blocking and restricting free speech fails to grasp that the whole idea of democracy means freedom of expression of different political opinions.
Thank you, Councillor Westley. Councillor Blackshaw.
The Local Government Association is clear. The Code of Conduct applies to councillors' electronic and social media communication only when we are acting in an official capacity or when it reasonably appears we are representing the council. It does not apply when councillors are acting as private individuals, and that distinction matters. We also need to be honest about the world we now live in. For many councillors, social media is not just a pastime. It is how they earn their living. Small business owners, freelancers, content creators, people who rely on online pages, groups and networks to promote their work and reach customers. For some, this is their primary source of income. This council should not be in the business of cutting off legitimate livelihoods simply because someone has chosen to serve their community as a councillor, nor should it put off talented individuals from becoming councillors because doing so might curtail that freedom online. I personally moderate a wide range of online groups. I'm what Facebook terms a super moderator. I cover everything from breastfeeding and health conditions to campaigning for local services. Many of those spaces are political, with a small p and sometimes with a capital P. They involve advocacy, debate, and community organising. That kind of civic engagement should be encouraged in a healthy democracy, not treated as something suspicious that needs to be shut down or tightly controlled or regulated. Councillors are already bound by the Nolan principles: integrity, honesty, openness, accountability, and leadership. These principles apply to us at all times, including online, whatever platform we are using. If a councillor breaches those principles on social media, it's already a standards issue. We do not need new rules to address behaviour which is already covered by rules that we have. There is also a hard truth that we need to confront. Anyone with basic digital skills can separate identities online in minutes. Increasing regulation, which risks causing councillors to hide their involvement, will not increase transparency. It will do the opposite. It will push activity out of sight and make meaningful oversight harder and not easier. With the greatest respect to the monitoring officer and the deputy monitoring officer, this proposal would place unrealistic burden on officers who have neither the time nor the specialist expertise to police complex online ecosystems, particularly at a point where their workload is already immense as we move towards becoming a unitary authority with major pieces of work to still deliver. We all care deeply about standards, openness, and trust in public life. Our existing code of conduct and the Nolan principles already strike the right balance. I urge colleagues to reflect on these points and to vote against the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Good.
I'm aware that a number of councillors own or moderate Facebook pages or groups or YouTube channels for professional, charitable or social purposes. I do so myself in 3 of these capacities, some of which could reasonably be considered political, such as the Environmental Community Interest Company I volunteer with. This motion should have been referred to the Member Conduct Committee when the social media policy was placed on the agenda, rather than being brought here.
Councillor Deborah Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion is about safeguarding trust. Increasingly, residents turn to large online community forums for information, discussion and support. These spaces are not just social platforms, they are other modern public squares. And when those groups are administrated or moderated by elected members, the responsibility is even greater. At present, our Code of Conduct and social media guidance offer general advice, but they do not address the real complexities that arise when councillors moderate groups with thousands of local residents. These are places where council policies are debated, concerns are raised and residents seek answers from those who represent them. Without clearer guidance, we risk inconsistency, and inconsistency can lead to perceived as biased. This motion seeks to ensure that when councillors oversee these online spaces, they do so in a fair, transparent and inclusive way. It does not restrict anyone's ability to run a community group. It does not interfere with free speech. It simply ensures where councillors take on this role, they uphold the standards the public expect of us. We have all heard concerns from residents who feel posts have been removed without explanation, who have believed they've been excluded from a group based on their views rather than their behaviour. Clear guidance will protect councillors from accusations of bias just as much as it protects residents from unfair treatment. By asking the monitoring office to review best practice and develop supplementary guidance, we are not imposing new burdens, we are giving councillors clarity, consistency and protection. We are also recognising that online engagement is now a central part of modern democratic life. We must ensure our standards evolve accordingly. In short, this motion strengthens transparency, strengthens accountability and strengthens public confidence in the way councillors conduct themselves online. It is a practical and necessary step to support all members who want to engage constructively with their communities whilst holding the highest standards of fairness, and I urge everyone to support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tillotson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a few separate points to make, really. Firstly, in terms of what Councillor Baines said at the beginning of the debate, yes, he's absolutely right, but that only applies during the election period, not at any other time. What is being proposed here goes far wider than I believe the author of the motion intends. And you've heard that from some other councillors this evening. But there is another issue, and if supported, any councillor who feels that what they're doing perhaps does cross a line, there will be nothing to stop them handing over the administration to a supportive friend or relative, and then it just disguises what's going on. So I think that is a potential issue. And my final point, I think the personal attack that one of the Conservative councillors made this evening was totally unacceptable and should be apologised for. Thank you.
Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't actually going to speak on this tonight, but I feel like I need to now. I don't have any strong opposition to this motion in itself, but I do want to echo what Councillor Tillotson just said about that personal attack, because my worry about this motion coming to full council was that it would descend into tit for tat, when actually the motion taken at face value is quite reasonable. So if we do vote for this, I would just like to reiterate that it is not to support the statement that was made that I found was very personal and uncalled for. I think the key question being asked in this is, what are the reasonable expectations of councillors who run or moderate these groups? And I think that it's fine to be asking for clarity on that. It does feel a little bit like we might be using a hammer to crack a nut, and it's not very clear if Charnwood's Code of Conduct is actually the best vehicle for that. But I think that's why asking the monitoring officer to look into this is a good way of working through that, because at the end of the day, they do have the expertise and the impartiality to help us through this. So from my reading of this, I don't feel that the motion's imposing rules. It is asking for advice and recommendations, and I feel that that's reasonable, and I don't think we've got any valid reason to oppose this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Boak, you reserved your right to speak as seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I've got to change the I think Councillor Needham is completely correct on this matter. This should not be a personal attack on anybody, but I do think that it's important that we have clarity on this matter with advice from the council. If I can just read out the definition of astroturfing, as it's known. It is a common tactic for political organisations, lobbyists, etc., to create Facebook pages and groups that look like organic community hubs. This practice is known as astroturfing, creating a fake grassroots appearance to hide a top-down political agenda. These pages often masquerade as local neighbourhood watches, a concerned residents group, or community pride forums to build trust before introducing polarised political content. Once the page has 10,000 followers, the content shifts to high conflict political posts, us versus them, rhetoric, or misinformation about local elections. Mostly, they stay around 10,000 followers, but some that we know in the area now have 70,000 followers, which is about the size of the electorate in Loughborough. So I reiterate, we are just seeking clarity on this matter with advice for all councillors, and therefore I would urge everybody to support this motion.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Monk to sum up. Councillor Monk.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to all the councillors that have contributed to the debate. This motion exists because residents have told elected members that they feel shut out of online community discussions when their views do not align with those of the moderators. That is not a theoretical concern, it's happening and it matters. When councillors choose to control online spaces that residents use to discuss local issues and council business, the way those spaces are moderated has real consequences for participation, trust and confidence in local democracy. This motion is not extreme and it's not unreasonable. It's asking for clarity where there is currently none. It asks for fairness where residents feel it is lacking, and it asks the monitoring officer to bring clear guidance back to councillors so we can decide what good practice looks like. If we believe in open debate, we should not be afraid of clear standards. And if we care about public confidence, we should not ignore residents when they tell us they feel excluded. Clear standards shouldn't frighten us, but ignoring residents should. I genuinely struggle to see any reasonable basis on which councillors would vote against clearer guidance, greater transparency and stronger public confidence in how we conduct ourselves. It's for all of those reasons that I would urge all councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Please use your consoles to vote. Is that a yes? Yes. For. Sorry, voting for, yes. It is, yeah. It's carried already. Isn't it? It's carried.
Can we just check everyone's voted that wishes to? We've caught two at the back, yeah. Okay, the motion's carried.
Yeah, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Item 10, questions on notice. As a reminder, the questions that councillors have submitted and the answers to them are in the supplements pack. I will call on those councillors who have indicated that they wish to ask a supplementary question. Supplementary questions must relate directly and exclusively to the question submitted, and any other supplementary question will not be permitted. Each councillor will have 1 minute to ask their supplementary question, and the councillor responding will also be able to speak for up to 1 minute. Item 10.1, Citizens Advice Bureau grants. Councillor Fox, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
I thank you for your response and welcome the commitment you have now provided in this response to continuing the additional £25,000 grant in 2026, as last time I checked this decision was still pending. That said, charitable organisations benefit from and in many instances require funding certainty in order to best manage and deploy their resources for the benefit of residents. In place of ad hoc, uncertain and second thought additional grants at later dates, please can the administration now commit to increasing the core funding itself, which has remained static at £86,705 for all 3 years of the Labour administration, despite Charnwood Borough Council having the financial capacity to make this increase.
Councillor Blackshaw, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Fox. We have consistently prioritised grant funding to assist people struggling with the cost of living crisis. CAB are very important partners in this, which is why we direct significant funding in their direction. We have attempted to provide stability to all the strategic partners by setting out the grant proposals for the next 2 years, which passed through Cabinet last week.
Thank you. Item 10.2, flood defences in Quorn. Councillor Fox, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
I welcome the continued commitment provided here to flood locker grants. I note, however, that we are now almost halfway through this winter when the flooding risk is at its highest, and despite putting an application in some time ago, as of last week's Corn Resilience Forum, our parish council has yet to have its grant approved and the necessary resources for responding to any flooding delivered. Does the administration have to hand a current breakdown of applications, successful grants and stages of implementation of the scheme so far? Further, while referencing the imminent publication of the external LLFA flooding report, I know that your response does not provide any specific reference to our internal flooding scrutiny panel report, already produced and circulated in May 2025 with recommendations for action. Please can the lead member confirm their awareness of this internal report and its recommendations and provide assurances of its commitment to implementing those not yet in place 6 months on from its publication?
Councillor Worrell.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. The recommendations from the scrutiny panel for flooding, some of those recommendations have been adopted by the relevant service within the council, and they are being implemented and will continue to be so. And I think also following the adoption today of the local plan, we have now got an increased ability to manage flood risk through that plan, through the policies CC1 and CC2, which includes quite detailed information about how we will be managing flood risk, including the cumulative effect that we can experience from developments. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.3, Council Tax and Local Government Reorganisation. Councillor Snart, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a disappointing answer. I will try again. Does the leader agree with the statement made by the financial consultant that due to harmonisation of council tax, Charnwood residents will see an increase in council tax of 8.5%? and Rutlands will decrease by 11%. At the time, the leader described this as unfortunate. Would he also agree that Charnwood residents would have seen a reduction in council tax if an east-west split had been put forward? Should this large increase of the hard-pressed council taxpayers in the borough be reflected and reduced with the promise of 44 million savings agreed in the model? The Conservative administration always kept Charnwood council tax one of the lowest in the country. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mayor, do you wish to respond?
Cheers. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I can reassure Councillor Snart that this administration has also kept council tax one of the lowest in Leicestershire as well. On the other stuff, it will actually be up to the new authority to decide what the council tax rate will be and the preset will be. We are not in the gift to second guess that, unfortunately. It's one of those things that the new authority, the shadow authority when it is formed, and the new interim authority when it's formed, will decide on how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.4, Plans Committee membership and quoracy. Councillor Corey Lowesley, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the answer Council Wall provided, and I'm glad to hear that both Cabinet members and officers have made efforts to get the Conservative group to honour its commitments. In the event that the Conservative group continues to refuse to participate in the business of planning, despite the fact that their residents elected them to do exactly that, have we investigated alternative ways of ensuring planning, the effective running of the planning service without full membership of the Plans Committee?
Thank you. Councillor Worrell, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The need for the Plans Committee to meet twice per month has arisen from a need to determine a backlog of planning applications. Once the backlog is cleared, the Plans Committee will revert back to meeting once per month. I recognise that the extra meetings members have had to find additional time to prepare for and to attend these. We've already started to look into alternative ways to avoid cancellations and to ensure the efficient running of the committee. If there is no change to the current situation following this meeting, I will explore further options with officers to identify, propose and implement necessary changes to alleviate the pressure and expectations being placed on current members and officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.5, council tax increases. Councillor Baines, would you like to ask your supplementary question, please?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. I have no supplementary question.
Thank you. Take it, Councillor Ashcroft, you don't wish to respond to the no question. Thank you. Item 10.6, government reorganisation job opportunities. Councillor Knight, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
So thank you for the response and thank you for correcting the error in my original question. I guess the number's still huge though, isn't it? 219,000 jobs between now and 2050, which is about 9,000 a year. And I can tell you, employing 10 people is difficult and expensive. So that is a big number of jobs. I watched with real interest in year one of the Unitary Council on how this number of 9,000 jobs will be achieved. And that, if we assume that's flat and consistent for 24 years, you get broadly to that number. I suppose my question in that context is, will we see these regular updates? These were big commitments and big selling points on the Unitary Council. So will we see updates against that commitment?
Councillor Mayor.
That's my question.
Without sounding, no, I won't say it actually, but you can understand why certain moderators would remove posts or amend posts when actually the question was incorrect or the statement was incorrect. However, we have corrected it for you, Mr. Knight, Councillor Knight. 219,000, it's ambitious, and I was hoping unitaries will be ambitious to get employment into their local area and investment into their local area. That's, I think, the whole point of reorganisation, to free up local government to be able to be drivers and fearsome drivers of regeneration and growth in their areas. And whatever comes in the next 25 years, I'm looking forward to it, to see Charnwood in its new unitary shape, which, whatever that might be, deliver those jobs and those employment prospects for the residents of the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, minute references. There are no minute references. Thank you. They are minute references, not minute references.
Minute minutes.
Thank you. But there aren't any. Item 12, under executive decisions exempted from call-in, as on page 134. This is a report to inform the Council of decisions which were exempted from call-in in accordance with Scrutiny Committee Procedure 11.9. Please can I remind members that the appendices to this report are exempt. If any councillor would like to speak, please indicate using your console. No. Okay, moving on. Item 13, delegation of executive functions, page 142. This is a report to inform the Council of delegations of executive functions. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. No. I'm now moving to item 14, appointments to committees. There are no appointments to committees that I am aware of. Councillor Boker.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to confirm that there are 3 vacancies on the Plans Committee for the Conservatives, but this is not through want of trying to find them. And we have supported all the other committees with substitutes, so they are not in quorum.
Right, Thank you. We're now moving on to item 15. The following item is exempt, and I therefore propose to exclude members of the public from the meeting during the consideration of the item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, and it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. May I have a seconder to my proposal to exclude members of the public?
I second this, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Please use your consoles to vote for this motion. For the show of hands at the bottom will make it unanimous, I'm sure. Thank you. The motion is carried. I'm going to ask the honorary aldermen, alderwomen and members of the public to leave the chamber, but I think they already have. Indeed. Item 16, Town Deal Programme Support, as on page 14.